Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amour de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. I'm very excited to introduce our guest today. We have Tom Glaser. He is a psychologist and life coach with over 30 years of experience. He is the author of Amazon's bestseller, Full Heart Living: Conversations with the Happiest People I Know. An associate at Partners in Resilience, he is now working on a second book and video project on resilience from following trauma. Whether writing, counseling, individual or groups, hosting a radio show, or teaching, his passion for helping people live their best lives flows through. For further information, including a free workbook, visit www.fullheartliving.com. Please welcome Tom.
Thanks for having me. Really good to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining. Great. Wonderful. So let's just dive right in. And actually, before we get started, I just kind of want to understand, how did you decide to get into this field for yourself?
Into psychology and
psychology.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, way back now, I'll never forget being in high school and having deep conversations with people, my friends and my sister in particular, my sister nearest in age to me, Anne, and that just feeling so satisfying. There was something about that, just really being deep and real with each other that kind of made me feel alive. And then Mr. Ryan, my high school psychology teacher, was so inspirational. To me, human behavior is absolutely fascinating, endlessly. Everybody has a story, right? So pretty much a no-brainer for me. It's just passion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Actually, Donovan and I both got our bachelor's degree in psychology. So
really?
we're huge fans. I mean, we ended up in different professions, but we love psychology, and that's one of the basis of our show and talking about, love conversations of depth and understanding the human mind.
Yes. And no matter what modality, as healers, it ultimately comes back to that connection, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
People don't heal if they don't feel connected.
Absolutely.
They don't.
I agree. Yes. Yeah. So your new product, Full Heart Living Conversation Sparks, kind of from your public speaking on your first book. I'm just curious to learn a little more about it.
Please. Yeah, you got it. Well, it comes back to what we were just saying, that connections. It's all about connecting. So I wrote my first book. I'll show you. Visual aid here. This is my book, Full Heart Living: Conversations with the Happiest People I Know, my labor of love. And I was going out doing public speaking gigs, hoping to inspire people to connect more deeply, because as I would tell people, what I learned in that whole project, which started as a video project, actually. So I have 3 mini documentaries on my Full Heart Living website that are the basis for this book. What I learned from those videos and writing this book and all the interviewing I did is that happier people connect really deeply with others, with themselves, and with their passions. And particularly when they do those things in the service of others, gosh, look out. That's where people just really come alive. So I would tell people that and hope to inspire them to do more of those things, of course. And what do you think people would do or say when I would say that at the end of my speak? I would say, I hope I've inspired you to connect more deeply with yourself or other people. And I'm asking you really literally, what do you think people would, how would they respond when I would say that?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think from two different pieces. One would be like, oh, I'm going to do that, because there's been many times that I've heard or consumed some material and I go, oh, I'm going to do that. And then it kind of fizzles out, right? So I am inspired, and then the follow through may or may not come. The other piece is sometimes at least for me, sometimes I get this information. It's like, you need to connect more, right? I might go well, I would, but I don't have time. But and that may or may not be true, but I would guess that's my guess is one of those two types of responses.
Yes. Yes. Anything to add, Dr. Alice?
Yeah, I kind of like resonate with what Donovan said, because I love authentic, deep conversations. I'm a huge fan, and I actually attempted to multiple times start like a virtual authentic healing circle, and it would start out pretty well, and I would try to do it like every week or every other week, and then eventually people just are too busy. They love the idea, but then they're too busy. There's like bigger priorities than connecting. And that was sad. So I've lost a little motivation because no one's showing up. And then I absolutely agree. Connection is so vital to our happiness of well-being.
Yes.
But I don't think everyone's picking that a priority. So I'm not quite sure what it would take to motivate people to remember that's important.
Exactly. Essential. It's really essential. It's food and water. We cannot survive without feeling connected to other people. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So in my experience, I would go out and I would do about an hour-long talk with people and end on that note. I hope I've inspired you to connect more deeply with other people. People would look at me like a deer in the headlights. They didn't know what to do. So I realized I wasn't helping them with that next step. I was telling them about it. I was explaining it. I was describing it. I know they were feeling it. You know, there were moments of connection even in the room with me and the audience, but I wasn't giving them enough of a personal experience for them to be able to take it beyond. So yeah, like you were saying, Donovan, they might want to, but they didn't know how to do it. Even if they really wanted to, they didn't like have just the really basic building blocks. So really quickly, I realized I need to give people an experience, an immediate experience. So I changed the way I did my talks from lecture style to experiential. So still like 50% would be experiential. I talk about my book, how it came about, what I learned. But the other half is taking them through this experience in which I give them a conversation prompt and ask them to listen deeply and to the speaker, and then give feedback in a particular way. And so then I developed this product. So another show and tell. This is Full Heart Living Conversation Sparks. It's like a double card deck. And the one side is all these colorful little smiley faces. Everyone's different. And then there's a different question based on the themes in my book. So the prompts themselves are based on the 20 chapters of my book. So things like being grateful, being true to yourself, working toward goals, as well as those top themes that I was talking about. Connecting deeply with oneself. So knowing who I am, honoring myself, being mindful, being in the present moment, connecting with other people, really having good relationships with others, having a tribe, having a support system, having a support group, connecting with passions, doing things that we're just passionate about, that we get into that flow where we lose all sense of time. And again, when you can do those things in the service of others, boy, that really brings it all together. So those are the top learnings. And the conversation sparks provide, as I said, an immediate experience. So what we thought we would do is actually do that right now. So let's do one of them together. So we'll all have an experience, and those watching and listening also, as we go through this, I invite you, listener, viewer, to notice what's this like to experience this, even if it's virtually or from afar. How connected to us do you feel as we go through this? How connected to yourself? And I'm asking that of the three of us too, as we go through this. So I'm gonna give Dr. Alice a conversation spark in just a moment, and you and me, Donovan, we're gonna listen in a particular way. We're gonna listen for two things and then provide feedback based on what we hear. So we're gonna listen for theme and values. So what's a theme? A theme, of course, is like, what is it really about? If we had to distill down what we hear from Dr. Alice, what's she really saying? If we could summarize it in a sentence or two, that's great. In a phrase, that's even better. Or word or two, extra credit for really distilling down. Same thing for value. So based on what we're hearing, what's important to Dr. Alice? What's really meaningful to her? All right, so you're clear on what we're doing, Donovan?
Yep, theme and values. I'm keeping it terse. I'm getting the extra credit.
Excited. I'll get two guys actively listening to me. As a woman, this is like every woman's dream to be heard.
And every person's dream.
No, that's true.
I totally hear you. There's absolute truth in what I'm hearing there. And again, being listened, being heard is an essential human need, and there isn't enough of it in our world. I'm convinced that creates a ton of strife and a ton of the problems.
Yes, I agree, definitely. Great.
So Dr. Alice,
yes.
You ready for your part?
I am, yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna, you don't know what this question is.
I don't know what the question is. So.
We have not practiced this.
Mm-hmm.
This is truly spontaneous. So you're being very brave. Let's just honor you and thank you.
Thank you.
So would you talk for a couple minutes, Dr. Ellis, and we're just gonna listen. We're not gonna interrupt. Donovan and I, we might say a little or we'll give you some nonverbals maybe, but we're really just gonna deeply listen. And if you would talk about a time you felt the most alive and why.
Yes, I have a story.
Yeah, please.
So, a few years ago, I actually had ended a really long-term relationship of almost 4 years. And I was in a way kind of trying to rediscover myself and who I am. And so I did a across Europe trip, and part of that included being in Italy. And I was in Italy by myself in Venice, actually, city of love, where what do you do when you're in Venice is ride a gondola. And what are gondolas for? Couples. And I had to face this decision whether or not I wanted to do it as a single person. And I was like, F it, I'm gonna go do it. So I Googled some options, and I found some group tours to make it more affordable, where it would be like 5 or 6 people per gondola or boat. And so I show up for the 11 a.m. tour, and they start loading up the boats each time. And then there's this family of 5 there. And then the tour guide calls out to this giant crowd of 40 people or so. Are there any parties of one, any single passengers to join this family? And I am literally like the only person to raise my hand. And in that moment, I could have been ashamed or embarrassed, but for some reason I was so empowered and enlivened by that, because the thought that came to my mind was like, heck yes, I'm doing this on my own, and it's gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna have a great time. And so I hopped on that boat. The family was giving me weird looks as I'm taking a bunch of selfies. And I just had a blast, and it was just one of the funnest, enlivening, empowering experiences of my life. So that was my one incredible moment that I could think of.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Donovan, you ready for your turn? Themes and values.
Yeah. So the one theme that I heard like very strongly, and it's also a value, I guess, but is kind of this independence piece, right? There's this piece of feeling like you were disconnected in a way, and we'll go back to some of the themes we've been talking about before, but looking for another mode of connection outside of connecting with this particular individual. And then it just seemed like you really found a pathway to connect with yourself.
Yes.
And there were other people involved in the story, but I think the way that you framed it and the way that you talked about it, it was really a lot of like this independence and like, I can go do these activities and just be connected with myself and be present. That's a lot of what I picked up. I did not do a one-word theme. No extra credit.
It's challenging. It's difficult. You're fine. You're fine. You still. I'm going to give you extra credit just for doing this activity. I really put both of you on the spot. Let's just acknowledge that.
Yes.
I didn't give you as much preamble as I usually do when I bring this to people, because I'm trusting that the two of you are risk takers, which is.
We're happy to play along.
Well, tell me why. Let's just go with that for a second. Why are you happy to play along?
Well, I always am fascinated by, I think with social media, a lot of people like to be prepared and planned and overthink. And I think that takes away from the authenticity of, I might just flub over all my words and just go blank deer in the headlights. But I do admit, though, I actually have been in Toastmasters. So they have this part in Toastmasters called the, I'm blanking because I haven't done Toastmasters in a while, where you have like, you're asked random questions and you get 1 or 2 minutes to respond. So table topics, where, it's on anything and you can just be called out of the blue to do it. So you got to be prepared. You got to be able to speak off the cuff, and because
that's speaking public too, right, Dr. Ellen?
Off the cuff most of our time, so just because it's recorded, why does it have to be different?
Yes. So you value spontaneity. We're back to values here, and this did come through in your story about the gondola. That was very spontaneous. That was a risk. You took a risk, and you're like, I'm just going for it. I'm going to go for it. To me, it was like just embracing the moment.
Yes.
It's a story of trusting yourself. It's a story of letting go of self-consciousness. It's a story of empowerment. And you started with this, where I'm in the city of love. It's a story of love. Self-love, self of the moment, trusting that you will be supported and supporting yourself.
Right. Yes.
So let's pause.
Okay.
How connected to each other and to yourselves did you feel as we did that in the last 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, I feel really connected and heard, and you really got my experience and my eat, pray, love moment in Italy. Just being a powerful woman. I got this. I'm independent. Powerful.
Elizabeth Gilbert would be so happy right now. I hope you're listening, Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yes. That'd be fantastic. Yes. So I feel more connected because I feel like you both listened, and it just kind of brings back all those really powerful memories for me that had me feel so alive. And just really, for me, I felt like the big takeaway was like, I'm okay on my own. I'm okay on my own was like a big takeaway.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's awesome, actually. And I can make it awesome. Yeah. So.
Totally.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, and the fact that we are highlighting that right now and sharing that together builds this muscle in you. We're reinforcing this in this moment. We're helping this get even stronger. This is already clearly really strong in you, Dr. Alice. But even just this little bit that we're doing right now, highlighting it, helps that be more true for you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great thing. How about for you, Donovan? How connected to yourself and to us do you feel having done this?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that a little bit off base, but like the one thing that I noticed or that stood out the most to me is just putting that little frame of just listen makes such a difference in terms of getting focused. Right? Like, there's so many times when I'm listening to someone that it comes out like all these other thoughts are running around and all this other stuff is going on, but just adding that little frame in front of it and saying, just listen, makes it so much easier to tune into the story and actually be present with the other person. So I really it's kind of like you were saying, it's like a muscle, right? Like ideally I'm doing this every time I listen to someone. In reality, sometimes when I'm lucky, just having that tension beforehand I think is, this is trying to bring that with me a little bit more often, just to everyday conversations, will really help me tap in more, be more present with my conversation. That's like the big thing that I.
Thank you for that. Well, and it's true. First of all, it's two very simple words. Just listen, right? Really simple words. Super powerful, not done enough, right? Our brains, we're blessed with these beautiful, complex brains that can predict, and we're going forward. And what am I going to say? And what do I think of that, right? We have all this capability while we're listening. But when we just really sink in and are just present for the other person, we are naturally more in the present moment, right? We're letting go of some of that other mind stuff, and it's not bad. Thank God I have this. I'm really happy. There's a time when that's really important. There's also a time to just be with each other. And the more I'm with you, the more I am with myself. So I know for me, I've never met the two of you before today. We had a tiny little bit of contact over email before this to set this up.
Right.
Of course. But I feel like I know the two of you so much more.
Yeah.
Right? That you went to Venice, that you had this experience. Donovan, that I saw you open up and tell me your truth. I go, oh, that's so cool. Like my heart melts a little bit. I'm a little less defended, right? I'm like, oh, these are people I want to get to know more. This is like, so again, this is just a few minutes of an activity that was even a little bit artificial and maybe even a little rushed. Like I said, usually I do a little bit more of a preamble. We kind of all dove in because all three of us do value risk-taking up to a certain point. That's clear to me already.
Yeah, I do think.
Please go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to switch topics a little bit, so if you had something to say, you should go.
No, you go. No, let's go.
I was just going to say that one of the reasons I got into this space, and one of the things that I really appreciate, is that you kind of found out through creating your content that there was a missing piece in terms of practical exercises to do immediately. And that's what I found a lot in my journey, is like I would read this information, like, have better conversations, listen better, and then there's no follow through. So I'd have all these ideas and I'd have all these ways of like how I'm supposed to be, or things that would make my life better, but no way to actually implement them. So I think this is an awesome product, or awesome just structure to add, to actually give exercises to start building some of these muscles. And I just wanted to say that I think it's really cool, because there's so much of that missing from this space, where you just get the information and you don't get the way to actually implement it. You don't get the tactics. So love it.
I really appreciate your saying that, Donovan. Can I just say, for my training, and I was really young when I trained as a psychologist. So still in my 20s, where the brain's pretty open, we're still pretty receptive to information. And they drill into our heads in psychotherapy training that you don't tell people what to do. Right. And that there's a place for that. That's super good, right? When I'm one-on-one in psychotherapy, or with a couple or a family, I don't want to tell them what to do too soon.
Right.
And it is better often if it comes to them in their own organic way. If we get their brain online and they come up with their own solution, often that's the best thing. But it's not 100% true even in therapy. Often people are there because their brains are stuck and they need something from me to get them unstuck. Sometimes that's a very specific, concrete idea that gets their, even if they don't do exactly what I say, and usually they don't, but it gets their brain going in a new way. So number one, that's in me. Don't tell people what to do, right? That's just this cardinal rule. So even when I wrote my book, initially I didn't have concrete things for people to do. I was just telling stories and trusting people to do with it what they will. Well, early readers said, no, you cannot do that to us, Tom. They said, we love these ideas, but you're not telling us what to do enough. So I very quickly changed it. So most of the chapters end with these workbook sections. This was the hardest piece for me to do, because again, this is against the grain. So isn't this great that I'm flexible, even at my advanced age? I've come up with something really concrete. I'm telling people what to do, step by step.
Right. Perfect. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, you don't necessarily, the way that I frame it, and people might be getting sick of this because I brought it up more than once, but the way that I frame it is like there's strategy and there's tactics, right? There's this broader overall, like for your book, it seems like connection, right? That's the piece that you want. And then you can share individual tactics. You can share like, try this, try this, try this, try this. And it's not the same as saying like, this is the only way to get connection. You have to do it this way. This is the one, right? But just by adding in those tactics and showing like, here's one way, here's another way, here's another way, people can kind of choose their own path, or like you were saying, get enough familiarity with some of the tactics to tweak it into something their own. And I think that's like the really important piece for getting people to actually experience the change, actually feel the things instead of just reading them.
Definitely. And I'll say too, we are in the age of a pandemic here. Right now, this is the only way many of us are connecting is through these video teleconferences. It's like we need this stuff more than ever. We need to find meaningful ways to maintain that the humanity, to be with each other. It's really essential right now. And this Saturday, we're doing the pilot version of a virtual game that people can, and free, that people can, tune in at from wherever. So we're going to test it this Saturday, but that's my hope very soon, that people will be able to just tune in from wherever they are on the planet and go through this experience with various questions.
Oh, awesome. So this sounds like it's about to get launched. It's kind of like in the pilot portion of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've done it live, but again, we just I think we have to tweak it a little bit. I want to test it using this medium. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. Yeah.
I think it worked well. Like, I'm sure the physical presence of another person adds an element to it, but we did it over video conference, just these questions and input.
Right.
I felt more connected than usual. So I think that's like a really great idea. You mentioned kind of the situation that everyone is in, staying at home, stuck, trying to feel connection. I know you also did a project on resilience through trauma, and I would be curious, some people may or may not identify this as traumatic, but I'd be curious what lessons or ideas you see that connect from that project to the current situation and how people can feel or develop a sense of resilience during these times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks. So first of all, I would characterize what we're going through as a trauma. Now, you've probably heard this before. We talk about traumas as sometimes there's a capital T, sometimes there's a little t. So some people might consider what we're going through more like a little t. Maybe it isn't. Well, it is huge. I mean, this is where I get tripped up myself. Right. I do consider this a collective trauma that we're experiencing right now. It's very sudden. It's dramatically changed our behaviors. There's a lot of shock. You see people, struggling, and there's a lot of unknowns. So many of those are hallmarks of traumatic experiences. I feel like there's people who resist labeling it as that for a lot of reasons. One might be denial, which is one of the reasons I was drawn to doing more work myself about trauma is to inform people, because we're all affected by trauma. Most of us are trauma survivors of some kind. What I've come to believe is that trauma is just part of the human experience, and it's just on a continuum. So not everybody is in warfare, for instance. Right. But everybody does know, particularly, again, right now, we're doing it right now. We're living in a time where there's been a sudden, massive change in the way we all live our daily lives. Whew, right? Even saying that out loud, I kind of go, oh my gosh, right? I feel it in my own body right now. So how do we translate those lessons back to your question, Donovan? First of all, that's it. Like just my noticing, in my body, as I talk about this right now, in my own body, just talking about this current experience we're going through, I'm noticing I get a little tense. My heart rate's going up a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit anxious, not overwhelming at all, but it's there. So just waking up, just noticing what's happening in my own body right now gives me a chance to take a breath, acknowledge it, And I'm not denying that this is true. I'm acknowledging it. Wow, I'm noticing and there's a response in my body right now. I'm having a physical, emotional experience right now. It's happening. Okay, breathe into that. That gives me more choice. Just pausing, taking a breath. Other ways that we can incorporate and use the power of resilience. Resilience starts with the body. We used to say so first of all, there's three main pathways that we say. There's the body, there's the mind, and there's the heart. We used to say start with whichever of those three you feel the most drawn to, or whichever you need the most work on. Then we realized that's not the best way. Start with the body. So isn't that interesting that I started with the body when I started talking in my own personal body? This is what's happening right now. Yeah. So taking care of our bodies, wearing face masks, maybe taking some extra supplements, being really careful with our nutrition these days, moving our bodies, getting outside, getting extra rest. So many people are experiencing tremendous fatigue because of the emotional overwhelm, because of this new medium. We're so much on this platform versus in person. Our whole systems are adjusting to this new way of being. Our body needs our attention right now. So start with the body, attending to rest, nutrition, and movement. So then moving on to the mind. So I'm just noticing what's going on in my mind. Am I looping? Am I making stories that aren't true? Am I forecasting something that maybe isn't going to happen? Am I remembering something in the past that actually isn't what's happening right now? It's not that either of those are bad. There's a time to remember what went before and learn from it. There's a time to plan for the future. Totally, of course. Often in our Western minds, we do way too much of that, way too much in an unhelpful way. Remembering what happened before and just sort of staying stuck in it, or being really scared about what might be coming. So coming back to the present moment, using mindfulness practices, which I'm sure the two of you utilize and have explored on this podcast before. And then the heart. So this gets back to the connection piece that we were talking about, finding ways to remain deeply connected to each other, deeply connected to ourselves, deeply connected to meaning. What does this all mean? And I hear a lot of clients getting more clear. A lot of my clients have a little extra time in their schedules now, either because they're not working as much or they're not commuting as much. And they're beginning to get more clear on what's really important to them, and what an exciting opportunity, both individually and collectively, for all of us to get more clear. What's really important, and how do we align more closely to what's really meaningful to us? So we're back again in the conversation sparks. We looked at themes and values. So what are the themes going on right now? And what's really important to us? To me, this is as any crisis, this is a great opportunity for us individually, in small groups and larger groups, for us to wake up and make some new choices if we want to. I think there's room for a lot of new choices, actually. I said a huge mouthful there. Sorry if I stunned you, or how are you reacting?
I mean, I thought it was nice. There's a lot of meat, right, built into what you said. A lot of different things that people can kind of pull apart and start thinking about. And like you were saying, I think it is a time of some extra stress and some changes. Like just the change itself is going to cause some amount of stress. But I also think, at least for me, like the amount of shakeup that's been forced has given me kind of forced time to think about restructuring some things, think about what is going to be different moving forward, what pieces am I actually glad are not a part anymore, and what pieces do I really want back, and how to just reconfigure things.
Yeah.
Nice.
Similarly, this whole lockdown situation, I do admit, in the first week it was okay, but then something happened in the second week, and I reached kind of a feeling low on an emotional level, and I realized I really develop new routines to support my mental and emotional well-being. And once I started implementing those structure that encompass the body, the mind, and the heart, really like connecting with my friends. I've actually had way more Zoom calls ever had than before the whole virus stuff. And I've been doing mindfulness meditation every day, exercising most days, and just supporting my whole well-being. And I feel like I've gotten to a place where I feel good in my body and mind and connected. So right now I feel more peaceful with myself, and that's been really helpful because we don't know how long this is going to be, how long it's going to go on, and I don't want to be stressed out for indefinite. It doesn't seem to work for me. Yeah.
Who needs it if we can avoid it? Absolutely.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love hearing that you're practicing all of those. And it sounds like you're saying, Dr. Alice, you actually do feel less stressed now than a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you, Donovan, you're getting more clear on what's really important to you, and beginning to parse out, hey, here's some things maybe I don't want to go back to. Mm-hmm. Letting go of some things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much before all this would label myself as an introvert in terms of I really need a lot of alone time, but not this much. This is a little bit too much. And it's helped me figure out or just see more clearly the balance that I actually need.
Mm. Nice, what a gift. Mm-hmm. And I too am just treasuring these amazing phone calls, right? We've like so many other people, I've lost the kind of the art of the phone call in the last decade or so. And like so many of my friends don't want to do any more Zoom calls because, 9 to 5, that's what we're doing. So yeah, let's talk. Let's do it over the phone, and not having the visual, just having the voice. Like I get more tuned in to intonation, and again, it's this way of connecting that's delightful. And I'm old enough to remember when that's all we had. And I used to love phone calls in the evenings.
Oh, I remember those days of being on a corded phone, and I would talk to my friend for like an hour over just nothing. We would tie up the phone lines and nobody could call in. Now everyone's like, oh, just text me. I can't handle a phone call. So
exactly. Exactly. And again, these tools are wonderful for getting information across. Texting is so great if I'm going to be late to a meeting.
Oh yeah.
Who wants to make a phone call? It's just not really worth the time. Absolutely. Text it, quick, done, super efficient. But texting is not good if the goal is to really connect more with each other.
Right. True.
It is a connection, but it actually can deplete our energy, so we have less for the needed social interaction, which we really need to hear the human voice for that to happen.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Great. Well, Tom, we really loved having you on our show today. It's been so much fun and a pleasure. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap up today? Or anything you want to plug for yourself?
Well, Conversation Sparks are available on Amazon.com. The book is available at fullheartliving.com, also at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm really working on my YouTube channel. The Full Heart Living YouTube channel has tons of video content, meditations.
Oh, great.
Also hosting a live meditation now, at least during the pandemic, on Saturdays at 10:30.
Great.
So yeah, all kinds of resources. Just want to be of service.
Wonderful. Yeah, we'll have all those resources in the description when we post it.
Thank you. That's great. And I've just really enjoyed this. I so appreciate the open-heartedness of the two of you, and just you both dove right in. And
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
That's it. Just to kind of, tie everything together. Like I said, I really appreciate seeing resources that have information plus practical implementation, because I really, really think that's lacking a lot. And I think that's something that people really need. You've done like a million projects, so you have all range of different things, but specifically what we talked about today, I think it'll be really useful for people to see an exercise that actually helps out. And again, just appreciate you coming on the show and spending some time with us.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I hope we can connect some other way and ongoing. Really, I really enjoyed being with the two of you.
Absolutely. Yes, us too. Well, thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right, sounds good.